We know the Kree are coming. Kang's got technology more advanced than anything I've ever dreamed of. He could be the world's only hope. But he's being a real jerk about it.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here. DC cartoons are awesome. DC cartoons are the best. DC cartoons make me love being alive. DC, DC, DC!
Here comes a new challenger!
Nani?
But now I'm not alone.
Oh yeah! That's right, lads and ladies. It's finally time for us to look at a Marvel-related cartoon. And what better place to start analyzing than with the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes? The answer is X-Men. X-Men would be a better place to start, especially with all the buzz around 97. I'd probably get a ton of clicks if I talked about that. Alas, I've never been good at jumping on bandwagons. Also, I have no memory of that show. Today we're looking at the episode The Man Who Stole Tomorrow, mainly because I like the lesson and it's one of the episodes I remember most that doesn't require too much context. Honestly, with my current style of reviewing, Marvel shows are harder to do since they tend to be less episodic than DC. It was quite a chore finding a good episode to take a look at. Why was I cursed with the difficult life of having to watch cartoons for a living? Am I being punished? Speaking of context, let's get down to it, shall we? Ahem.
And there came a day, unlike any other, when Earth's mightiest heroes were united against a common threat.
Except for Captain America, because he was still frozen.
On that day, the Avengers were born.
If the only version of the Avengers you're familiar with is the MCU's, gotta tell you right now, go ahead and forget just about everything you know. This version of the team is a lot closer to the comics. Don't get me wrong, this came out in 2010, so the MCU definitely had some impact on it. No one has secret identities, Nick Fury is black, Jarvis is an AI, but the comics are where the similarities truly lie. For example, we get the actual original Avengers. Yep. As shocking as it might seem, these are indeed the original members. Iron Man, the Hulk, Ant-Man or Giant Man, whatever you feel like calling him, the Wasp, and Thor, whose real names respectively are Anthony Stark, Robert Bruce Banner, Henry Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and Thor. Yeah, no Donald Blake this time around. As the show went on, different heroes would both join and lead the team, keeping the Avengers roster in flux, again similar to the comics. And of course, there's a lot more to the show than that, but me talking too long is what I hate editing most in these videos, so let's proceed with the review, shall we? The episode starts in space just outside of Earth, where we see a ship teleport in and hear a voice mentioning a bunch of different things. Something about cloaking machines, current technology, a dude named Kang. Wait, what?
Has the target been located?
Yes, Lord Kang.
Oh, okay. Earth's Mightiest Heroes wasn't playing around. Took the MCU forever and a day to get to Kang the Conqueror, and by the looks of things, they're heavily regretting getting to him. After Kang says a generic line, the intro kicks in and oh boy. Is it a banger of an intro? Seriously, I absolutely love the intro to this show. The music, the cinematography, everything about it is perfect. Definitely makes my top 5 intros of all time, maybe even top 3. It shows a scene of Hydra attacking the city, and the Avengers, led by Iron Man, are taking them down with some freaking fantastic music playing. The original members are featured, as well as Captain America, since both here and again, the comics, Cap joined almost immediately after the Avengers formed. It always ended with a shot of the entire current roster, which was a good way to remind the audience who was in play. And just look at that font. Ah, I love it so much. After the intro, we transition to the Avengers mansion, where Tony and Cap are getting their morning started.
Well, the newspaper calls you a futurist. And unless you're into Italian art, I'm not entirely sure what that is.
I feel like the kitchen is not the best place to be doing push-ups, Cap.
I'm inventing technology for the next century. For instance, having news and information delivered via wireless signals as opposed to a newspaper.
People who work out, can you please explain to me why eating raw eggs is a good idea? I mean, yeah, Rocky made it look cool, but I'm not willing to risk salmonella just for a bit of protein.
I like newspapers.
Holy Sonic-approved chili dogs. Cap, what have you been eating? All right, we established that. Eggs. Sorry, it's just, most medias I've seen portray Steve with a much slimmer physique. I mean, it makes sense that he'd be humongous. This is freaking Captain America we're talking about, but I am not used to it. By the way, this scene is doing everything in its power to foil Tony and Steve. Tony uses technology while Steve is reading a newspaper. Tony is eating tofu while Steve goes for the eggs. Tony eats his food slowly with chopsticks while Steve chugs his down. It's visually setting up the running theme of the episode, which is one we see with these two characters a lot. Cap's traditionalist mindset versus Tony's progressive mindset. Personalities that enhance each other. That's why you do a superhero team show instead of just a superhero show. Take notes, Miraculous. Steve tells Tony that he can tell from the paper that he's reading that Tony does not know how to fight.
There's about 20 supervillains out there that would disagree with you.
Please don't crush me. There's a semantics argument going on here that these guys don't seem to be aware of. What Cap is saying is that Tony doesn't know how to use his body to win a physical confrontation. What Tony is responding with is that he has already proven he can overcome most combat situations. It creates a slight gap in the point that's trying to be made.
Meet me in the training room in 5 minutes. We've got work to do.
What? Yo, can I finish eating my breakfast? Also, what did you do with my breakfast? We cut to the training room where Cap's listening to Tony and gets an audience, and oh boy, am I glad Hulk is in this episode. I was afraid I had chosen one where he wasn't on the team, and I wouldn't get a chance to talk about him. This is my favorite version of the Hulk, tied with the comics Planet Hulk. Earlier in the show, he made a deal with Bruce that he would get to keep control of their bodies, so he's out all the time, and it's always a riot watching him do or say anything.
I'm stronger than all of you! I'm the strongest one there is!
Sure about that?
From what I've seen, your fighting style is to tackle people or blast them.
I mean, if it works, Cap.
If I had to guess, I'd say that you've never been in an actual fight in your life.
You mean a traditional fight, Cap, not a quote-unquote actual one. People really underestimate how much semantics can get in the way of communication. So Steve tries to show Tony that in a fight with no armor, he doesn't really stand a chance. It works, but with Hulk and Clint laughing at Tony, the lesson doesn't quite get through.
My armor protects me, you know.
You can't always count on your armor. You have to be ready for anything.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
By the way, Thor, Wasp, and Ant-Man are also in this episode doing a B story. Their stuff mainly involves world building and isn't too relevant, so I'm gonna speed through it. After capturing Blizzard, our three heroes escort him to 42, a prison being held in another dimension with Ultrons as the jailers.
Ultron is a robot that Iron Man and I designed together. Ultron can't be hurt, he can't be corrupted, and I've programmed them to help rehabilitate the prisoners.
Yeah, all you scrubs out there, this was Ultron's actual origin. He was originally invented by Hank Pym, which is why he kind of looks like an ant. I remember when the MCU first announced the Avengers and they hadn't done Ant-Man, my dad was like, wait, how are they gonna do Ultron then?
This isn't fair. None of you could have taken me alone.
X to doubt, Thor is right behind you.
Man, you are a whiner. You've been complaining ever since we caught you, Blizzard, which was really easy, by the way.
Janet is the best character. I mean, I like Hulk more because grr, testosterone smash, but Janet is the best character. Back to Steve and Tony.
The world has changed, Cap. Life moves faster now than ever. The goal is to see danger before it gets here. You're still used to the old ways of doing things.
They say those who forget history are doomed to repeat it.
And that's one of my favorite pieces of advice ever, but it doesn't really apply here. Tony isn't forgetting the past, he's just not being defined by it. He knows he's not good at fighting, and he knows that being able to fight is a good thing, but he's adapted his technology to compensate for that, and is working to make sure it's reliable.
If the old ways include training and preparation, then maybe you need to slow down a bit.
What? Have you not been listening, Cap? Tony literally just said that he's preparing for what's to come. He's just doing it technologically.
It's always a good idea to know some basics, no matter what year it is. Some things never change.
So I agree with what Cap is saying, people should always practice the basics in their field, but I feel like he's not considering Tony's perspective nor his role. The basics for Captain America are not the same as the basics for Iron Man. While learning to fight traditionally could definitely be an asset to Tony, as a technology expert, he gets more out of focusing his time on that aspect of himself and using that to compensate for his weaknesses. Also, while I feel like it's a tad unrealistic, I really like that Cap and Tony are still being friendly despite clearly having a disagreement. Suddenly, a blinding light interrupts Tony and Steve's conversation. Kang enters the picture and begins attacking. Superhero shenanigans ensue, but Tony and Cap don't seem to stand a chance. Cap's shield is very inconsistent. Like, it's supposed to be able to take off limbs or cut people in half, but you almost never see that happen.
I am Kang the Conqueror. I have come from the 41st century to eliminate you from the timeline.
He starts monologuing.
Why would you want to take out Captain America?
To save the world.
It's just a prank?
Now this is just some friendly advice.
Oh, hi, T'Challa. Almost forgot you were here. The Avengers get the upper hand, but since he mentioned saving the world, they allow Kang to further explain himself. Kang discloses that the future has been destroyed thanks to something in the 21st century that shouldn't be there, so he came back in time to eliminate that thing.
Captain America.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing, I can't believe it.
Ending your life is the first step in restoring it.
You wish to end a life, villain? Then try ours!
Yeah! Wait, what?
Wow, you, want a minute to rephrase that there, Chief?
With the Avengers having assembled, Kang tries a different approach. He takes them to the future to see the destruction for themselves.
This is what Captain America's presence in your time has caused. This is all his fault.
Here's a bright idea. You have a time machine. Just take Cap back to the 20th century.
Where have you taken us, Kang?
Let me guess. Not where, when.
Not where, Avenger. When.
Every time. Kang explains that they're all 10 years into the future. The sun was crippled, which had a devastating effect on the Earth. The reason for this is the Kree and Skrull War that the heroes know is approaching, but Captain America was a big influence in how everything went down. This is actually a pretty interesting conundrum. The Avengers need to save the world, that's their job, but sacrificing Captain America to do it is a pretty tough choice.
If I really am responsible for all this, I have to stand down.
Let me get this straight. Handing over Cap to you is gonna save the world?
It may.
I'm sorry, it may? Okay, you're making the supposed tough choice easier, Kang.
I will ready your military and prepare for the coming war.
And how do you plan to accomplish all this?
By conquering your world.
And you lost them. That's a threat. And the Avengers don't take kindly to threats, even from would-be saviors.
Avengers, take him!
Kang says screw it, he's taking his ball and he's going home, but before he can abandon the heroes in the future, cockroaches swarm him and stop him from activating his chair.
Okay, I'm impressed.
I sensed them the second we got here.
Wait, sensed them? Can he do that? I mean, he wasn't even wearing his helmet when he arrived. The Avengers managed to separate Kang from his chair and try to hold him off.
Iron Man, get to the chair! That's our ticket home!
What? But I can't.
You're the only one who can!
You see what Cap just did there? Yelling orders during dire situations? There's a certain aura of authority and leadership that Captain America is supposed to have. Brian Bloom, the voice of Cap, nails it perfectly. You know who doesn't nail it perfectly though? Chris Evans!
Alert! Alert! Unpopular opinion detected. Alert! Alert! Unpopular opinion detected.
Yeah, I know I'm pretty much alone on this opinion, but I never felt Chris was a good casting for Cap because his voice always took me out of the experience. There's just not enough bass in it for him to sound as commanding as I've always imagined the character.
You need men in these buildings. There are people inside and they're gonna be running right into the line of fire. Why should I take orders from you?
Tony is able to connect his suit to Kang's chair because apparently ports won't change for the next 20 centuries. As expected, he has trouble getting anything to function because he's not familiar with the technology.
Come on! This isn't magic, it's technology. There has to be logic to it.
Sure, Tony, but I remind you, 20 centuries! Like, can you imagine an engineer from 2,000 years ago trying to understand a modern computer? Kang eventually figures out what Tony's trying to do and starts to target him. The Avengers, however, manage to slow Kang down long enough for Tony to eventually find something.
Connect to port 290926 now. Your tech is incredibly advanced, gang. But some of its physical systems are based on Stark Industries technology. And those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it.
And they brought the lesson home. It was a rocky start, but that was a great way to take what Cap was saying and apply it to Iron Man. With Tony in charge of the chair, Kang is severely handicapped and unable to properly stand up to the Avengers. He teleports back to his ship, defeated, and prepares for the next episode.
Time to show the 21st century how I earned the title of Conqueror.
Which we'll have to save for another time. Like I said, Marvel shows are difficult beasts to tackle in my format of reviewing. And that was The Man Who Stole Tomorrow. Love this episode, love this show. Great characters, great action, great drama, and a great lesson. I know I did a lot of whining about Steve not properly seeing Tony's point of view, but unless you analyze scripts for a living like I do, you're probably not going to catch those types of flaws. Also, I do agree with Steve's overall point, even if I think he taught it poorly. One should always keep up the basics in their craft, because it's true. Despite progress, some things things never change. And it's not like the episode itself didn't have empathy for Tony. He used Cap's lesson, but in his own Iron Man way. Like seriously though, if you haven't checked out this show, it's on Disney Plus, give it a watch. The first season in particular is really insanely good. And I, for one, am so glad I finally got something from Marvel reviewed. Felt like a crucial part of me was missing, you know? This has been Shady Doorags. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.